Hi, welcome to Over 50 TV. My name is Lou Reyes, and today, once again, I have a guy who I'm actually starting to dub the guru of HR. I've got Jork McLean with us today, and if you've followed us in the past, any of our other videos that talk about HR, especially the most recent videos, you know that we have got Jork with us. He's an HR expert. Jork has over 2 decades of experience in HR, and Jork was also an HR manager for the Phoenix Suns. And I'm so happy to have you here, Jork. I've got a question for you. I can't wait to hear your answer. But let's introduce you, Jork. Welcome to our show.
Hey, I'm happy to be back as always, and I love being on Over 50 TV. Again, I always hope that this is some good value and good content for your viewers, and I hope that people get something from this.
Well, Jork, I know that they do. Just based on the comments that I get, and one of the viewers recently, I don't know if you saw the comment, but they thanked me for bringing you back. So yeah. I'm thanking you too, Jork, that you're here. So here's a question I got for you.
Yeah.
Why? And this is a question was posed to me. Why do employers use or ask employees to sign a non-disclosure agreement? Can you shed any light on that?
Yeah, I would say from a traditional sense and historically, it's been used to protect information that the company has. That's a general answer. It can be done anywhere at beginning of employment, the interview process. They want to hide, and not in a negative way, but maybe it's a company that has a defense contracts. It's a publicly traded company, and they want to be very careful about who they're interviewing. So it's almost like you can't tell anyone who you're interviewing with. But at the pre-employment phase, they come in. Non-disclosures also come in during the work cycle. And then you often see them more with management at the end of the work cycle in a severance agreement. So in all of those, there are types of non-disclosures. Usually there's what I call what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So the information you learned at the company, you leave with the company. So when you go work someplace else, you leave it there. Some of it, I'll say that the one that an audience may be aware of, you witnessed or were a party to something you shouldn't have seen or shouldn't have been a part of, and then the company asked you to sign something. But it can also be at the beginning of employment when they want you to sign confidentiality agreements or types of non-disclosure, so that as you go through the course of your career, you're not disclosing things to you're giving up trade secrets to other people.
Let me ask you a question then. If some employer looks at me or says, hey, Lou, I want you to sign an NDA, non-disclosure agreement, I look at that. Maybe I even have my attorney look at that NDA. Can I suggest changes to that NDA?
Absolutely. It's a misnomer. I'll first say you should always have an attorney look at it. Now you're saying now in the interview process, you can't always say, can we reschedule the interview so my attorney can look at that? Sometimes you just have to flip a coin and go with it, but certainly review, know what you're getting into. But when it comes to making changes, absolutely. One key element of a non-disclosure, many of them are boilerplate template. It will say forever on there, meaning you cannot disclose anything in here for the rest of your life. And often that's something that is a forever. It's not something the company puts in. It's usually in many of them, it's already there. I would negotiate the amount of time. You can make suggestions. Now the company may turn around and say, we're not going to go with that, but I would certainly have an attorney, because an attorney may know things that you don't know to ask for, or you may be giving up certain rights and privileges that you don't know that you're giving up when you sign that. An attorney would say, wait a second, everything's okay, but here's 3 things that need to be amended or changed. If you work with non-disclosures often in your career, you may know what you're looking for. But if there's one area that it's worth the few $100s or whatever that may be for them, it's a non-disclosure, because you don't know what you're giving up.
But here's a question for you in terms of remedy. Is the remedy, and I've written non-disclosure agreements. I never put in there that if you disclose this is what's going to happen to you. I never gave specifics. I said we could take legal action or something. Have you seen non-disclosure agreements where they tell you flat out you're going to pay X amount of dollars, or you're going to forfeit pension? Have you seen anything like that in terms of a remedy?
On the remedy side, so talking about, if the employee gets something, what they might have to give back down the road in
Uh-huh.
lieu of signing that. If you talk about it, anything that you were given for signing that
Mhm.
document, they're going to take back. And
Mhm.
so I have seen those. It's usually more generic. It's more, we may have the opportunity, we could. It's to me, it feels like a threat, but it's one that if you're going to sign this document and the
Mhm.
attorney, if you have an attorney that says, okay, it's worth it, then you have to make sure that whatever you're getting is worth um, is worth your silence,
Yeah.
whatever that silence may be.
So one last question I do have for you, and I want to go
Yeah.
back to the length of a non-disclosure. Is there, in your experience of 2 decades of experience in HR, is there like a standard, like, okay, 1 year after employment or 5 years or 10 years, is there a limit? Have you seen that?
I have. And so situations where I'll talk about basketball. There may be people during the course of the employment that are signing off. There are certain things that are going to happen during the season that haven't been, like, let's say, marketing pieces that haven't been
Hmm.
exposed yet. So there may be people that are asked in a specific situation or project to not say anything to any of the colleagues because they want it to be a surprise for everyone, not just the fans and the public, but also people in the company as well.
Yeah.
That's a very benign non-disclosure confidentiality, but it's one
Yeah.
year. I would say in some cases 2 to 3 years. That's more rare. In most of them that I was involved with, it was 12 months from employment, because in the situations that we were in, it didn't warrant trying to stretch out farther than that. There are some situations where people are asked to sign restrictions, are called restrictive covenants, that they
Mhm.
can't open up a business, a similar business within a certain radius.
Yeah.
Some of those, which are getting into the weeds here, are 2 to 3 years out, are more general. But most people, I would say, if you're signing a non-disclosure and you're comfortable with what it is in there and you're okay with it,
Mhm.
I would try to say after 12 months, I can talk about whatever it is. But now after a year, there shouldn't be an issue. I would really think that an attorney would know best.
Yeah, and that seems a very much a reasonable time frame. It seems reasonable to me. Well, George, I want to thank you again. I want to thank you again because I think this is an important topic, and it's so interesting to me how when you get into the weeds, when you're working at a company, when you really get into the weeds and you see all these things that you, as an HR person, I'm speaking about, all these things that you really got to be on top of and you have to have some knowledge for. And I think sharing that knowledge that you have with our viewers is so important, George.
Yeah, thank you so much. I will say this, and I hope that your audience that's working out there, when you think about your HR people, whether you love them or whether you hate them, hopefully those people have good attorneys, because what helped me was having really good attorneys. So
Yeah.
that way I didn't create more of a mushroom cloud for the company or create more problems for employees by putting my foot in my mouth, that created more problems for them along the way.
But George, I do want to thank you once again for being here today. I'm looking forward to talking with you again on Over 50 TV.
I appreciate it. And thanks again for having me. I love being here.